Oh, cheese biscuits. Wow. How the heck are you? I am come the Whiskey Whisperer for this particular video. Anyway, how the heck are you? Weather goes up, down, gets hot, gets cold. Anyway, it's probably low 60s here, but I'm in my shorts, sleeveless shirt, and we're having some whiskey, man. I'm a guy on a budget, obviously. So for me, I know a lot of folks say things like there's not a good whiskey under 40 bucks, or some say 50. And I've always kind of been on a quest, and I've even on my Beer Whisper website, I've got one page dedicated to whiskeys that I've found that I've liked for under 35. This one I paid 27 for, and I'm trying to get familiar with rye whiskeys. Nothing better in the market. Old Forester Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey. I believe it's from Heaven Hill, if I remember correctly here. Does it say here? It says Old Forester, but I believe Heaven Hill's the mother distiller there. Anyway, let me see if I can read here. In 1940, my great-grandfather, Owsley Brown, acquired the old Kentucky distillery, and along with it, Normandy Rye Whiskey brand. After 40 years absence, I'm proud to reintroduce this historic rye recipe, which features our proprietary yeast along with a mash bill of 65% rye. That's a lot of rye, man. 20% malted barley, which is a nice amount of barley as well, and 15% corn, creating a unique, spicy, and floral member of the Old Forester family. I thought for 100 proof rye for under 30 bucks, that is a deal. And I've made it known that I'm more of a bourbon and Irish whiskey drinker. However, I'm trying to, round out my whiskey palate and get familiar with rye. So here we go. And I have some neat, but I want to do the rocks first. I didn't want to melt too much. I'm going to do it neat and rocks, but I'd like to do the rocks first. A lot of sweetness on the nose, I will tell you. It almost has the nose of a high rye bourbon, even though it only has 15% corn. You give you these deep, rich, dark caramel notes right on the nose. A lot of vanilla. And certainly some spice. Oh, wow. So I'll be honest with you. I bought this for two reasons. One, the price. It was under 30, and that's what I allowed myself to spend. And I liked the idea that it was 100 proof. But I must admit, probably mostly because I wanted to have a Manhattan. So I thought, well, let me try it, but I like to try it in its purest form first before I put it in a cocktail. And I poured myself some neat and some rocks, but I'm drinking the rocks first because I don't want it to get too much, get too watery, I guess I should say. I mentioned there's a lot of sweetness on the nose. And typically with a bourbon, you get the sweetness right away and the spice in the back end. But here I get spicier notes up front, and what that corn has to contribute in sweetness comes in the finish. You get just a hint of sweetness right at the end. It's freaking good. It's pretty outstanding. Yeah, for 30 bucks, I couldn't help myself. Under 30, it was like $26.97, I think. So it was under 27. I really had to try it. I was looking at various whiskeys. There was an American whiskey that I thought about buying that was also 100 proof. It ran about 35. This one felt like it was the best value. And Old Forester products, some may not consider them top of the line, but for me, they're always a strong value. And although I'm not, I don't know as much about ryes in particular as I do bourbon and Irish, I gotta admit, I would put this up against higher priced ryes to see if folks could tell a difference, rye drinkers in particular. A dry oaky in the finish, these dry toasted oak notes. With some spice, but not as spicy as a bourbon tends to be in the finish. my video approved list, first song you heard was some Studebaker John, and now we've got some Delta Moon, baby. We got some blues rocking here at the pub with the Beer Whisperer. I'm sorry, Whiskey Whisperer. Sometimes I forget who I am, man. Going Down South is the tune from the album or CD or disc. Going Down South. I'm so old I still refer to everything as an album. Oh, that's freaking outstanding. I'm going to finish this up because I really want to get to the meat here. I just poured an ounce and a half here in my Tomstown glass. So I mentioned a lot of sweetness on the nose on the rocks. It's amplified. Big, deep, dark caramel notes right away. A whole lot of vanilla, sweet, creamy vanilla. Oh, that's gorgeous. That's just gorgeous. Okay. That's gorgeous, man. I am looking forward to this, to trying it in a Manhattan. However, having had it on the rocks and now drinking it neat. There are those snobby folks that think you can't find a whiskey worth drinking neat for under $40. I'm here to tell you you're wrong. It's a little warming in the finish. I feel the spice notes. I feel like the ice killed a lot of the spice notes, the barrel spice notes, I should say. It did bring out some sweetness, but it did kill a lot of the spice, because here I'm really feeling those spice notes on the back end. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful, man. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, man. Don't ever change. Ah, yeah. Reputa the beauty. Shimmy down your head, let me climb up the ladder of your love. Anyway, probably got to be of a certain age to get that reference too. I tell my wife as we're watching shows and certain references will come up and I'll start cracking up and she'll just look at me like, I said, the stuff's funnier if you understand the pop culture references. I kid my wife, I always refer to her as a pop culture Philistine. Things go whoosh. Then again, if I didn't remember so many pop culture references and musical references, I would probably have room in my brain for knowledge that might help me get somewhere. I'm even amazed. It's not like I've sat down and tried to memorize things, and there are just things that are stuck. Instead of, more important things that I probably could have done something with. Anyway, cheers. Hope everybody's doing all right during our self-imposed exile. Some people don't want to call this a quarantine because a quarantine is where you put sick people. We're not sick, so is it really a quarantine? I don't know. I mean, I think it's semantics at this point. I think some people just want to get their panties in the water about something. Is it unconstitutional to restrict our movement? Well, I guess it just depends on your interpretation, right? They're just telling us to be safe and not be ass-ass, but some people are just bound and determined to be ass-ass, right? Well, I'm going to do it. Shortly after this thing started, our church right away, I mean, they were one of the very first to start an online service, man. They told people to stay home, be safe. But there are some churches that just demand you come in and pay them some money. I mean, people are hurting, man. And there are these televangelists, billionaire, multi-billionaires that have private planes still demanding that you tithe. I mean, that is just freaking ridiculous. In my opinion, this is their time to shine. All of you televangelists and mega church pastors, this is your time to help take those billions that you've made from your people and put it into doing something worthwhile. My neighbor came out, I waved. Help your community. This is your time to shine, man. Help the community with food. Do something, man. People need help. People are out of work, and you still want them to tithe? Anyway, my church hasn't asked us to do that. So it's one reason that the church we go to is why we go to it. We go to an Episcopal church, my wife and I. So we went to this church many years ago before we had Seamus. And then we moved out of state when we had Seamus. And then we came back, and then they had a different pastor. We tried different churches here and there, but and then Seamus got sick, and we lost him to cancer. And my wife and I kind of had a crisis of faith, I guess. It was just difficult for us to go to any church for a while. It's not that we ever quit believing, I suppose. It's just that, I don't know, there were just a lot of factors. Then all of a sudden there just seemed to be something pulling us back to this particular church. Our grandkids started showing interest in wanting to go to church, but my daughter, she's not where we are yet, right? Losing her brother really, she had some doubts anyway, and that kind of, for her, that was the last straw. So we said, yeah, we'll take them to church, and we just said, we're just going to go back to this church. And right from that first time we were there, they were just so welcoming. It was just amazing. My wife and I looked at each other and said, man, this is where we're going. It was just amazing. They loved the kids. Oh, these kids are so good, It was amazing. They just loved the grandkids, and they didn't have many kids at the time, so they were actually considering, because most Episcopal churches are small. This is a relatively small congregation, and at the time they were thinking about, disbanding the Sunday school, and then our two grandchildren started going. Then other folks started. Some came back, some others joined the church, and now they've got a nice amount of kids in Sunday school. Because I grew up Catholic, they accepted, you don't have to take the classes, but my wife growing up Lutheran, to become a member of the church, you can go to the church without anything. But to become an actual member, you need to take the classes, which isn't a big deal. It's not like, they don't make you take a test or anything. They just want you to learn how they do things. And so, but I took it with her because it's been such a long time since I studied it. And it was interesting. I'm glad I did. So we became members of the church. And you feel like you're part of a community with the Episcopal Church, or at least this one anyway. But yes, I think responsible churches are doing an online service and don't want you to come in. I think you have the irresponsible churches, that you have the greedy pastors, the greedy churches are demanding you show up, and they're wrong. Anyway, sorry to get political, or at least religious, old Forrester, but that's what we do, because what I do isn't a review. I like to think what we do is we're hanging out at the pub, and you've been at the pub with the Whiskey Whisperer. We've been having some old Forrester rye, man, 100 Proof Rye. This stuff is freaking gorgeous. I got to tell you, it is definitely a buy again, even after having one on the rocks and one neat, and I'm going to come back with a Manhattan at some point. One more time with feeling. As we leave with some Studebaker John here, I am Tom the Whiskey Whisperer, Whiskey Evangelist, prolific whiskey drinker, pervert wisdom man. All around good guy. Cheers, y'all.